Hello there everybody, this is Krista and welcome back to the Krista Chronicles, and today we are doing a fun spooky season tag that I saw around here on TarotTube called the Haunted Decks tag, created by Tapestry of the Unseen. I will link their original video below. It was so fun, definitely recommend giving that a watch. And I'm such a tag lover. I love any sort of tarot deck tag, and I love Halloween. So when I saw this, I'm like, yes, that's what we're doing today. There are 7 haunted questions. I think we just get right into it. I've got my basket here. Let's do it. So, number 1, we have the Witch's Brew. What's your go-to deck for brewing up some magic and mystery in your readings? So, show off your favorite deck that always seems to stir the cauldron of intuition. Now, I just have to say, what I also really love about this tag is how detailed the questions are. So it's like you get the little title, a question, but then in parentheses under every question, there's like a, just like in sort of like very plain speak, here's what we're looking for. I appreciate that so much. I really do. So, okay, show off your favorite deck that always seems to stir the cauldron of intuition. My pick for this, do I have it here? Oh my gosh, did I not finish, like, no I did. Oh, this, okay, I have it. I was like, did I seriously not finish, like, getting all of my decks out? Okay, my pick for this is the Memento Mori Oracle. I am such a huge fan. That is nothing new. But especially when I am thinking of, anytime the word intuition comes up, or, you know, there's a thing around wanting to do a really intuitive reading. I mean, to me, intuition kind of comes into every reading, but this is the deck that comes to mind when it's like, okay, that's really what I want to tap into, get into here. I'm going to use this deck for that because it is, as you can see, purely an oracle of objects. There's a title, but there's no keywords on it, nothing else. There is a little pamphlet that comes with at least like the base deck. I don't know about some of the rest because I am in Claire Goodchild's Patreon, so that's why like some of these say Patreon. Because I love getting all the extra cards. I really do. Anyway, there is a little pamphlet that does have keywords if you want to use that, but something about this deck just like really opens up my imagination and pushes me to sort of see meaning in just something like one of these objects. And I don't, sometimes I can kind of struggle with that when I've used other decks in that way, but something about this one, it just sort of like clicks in my brain. It's like I can come up with some sort of meaning. And it's really cool because sometimes it's different every time. Like I'll pull a card multiple times. Like Teapot, for example. Sometimes that comes up for me in a way of morning routine because I have a cup of tea every morning. Sometimes it comes up in a way of just taking a moment for comfort because I find tea very comforting. And sometimes it's really literal of like, what's the gossip? What's the tea, so they say. So I just really, really love it. And so this is absolutely the deck, I would say, always seems to stir the cauldron of intuition. So that is my Witch's Brew deck, the Memento Mori Oracle. Okay, next we have the Ghost deck. Which deck haunts your collection but rarely gets used? A deck that sits quietly in your collection yet has a spooky charm all its own. And for me, that definitely had to be, thinking of like both the rarely gets used but spooky charm together, I had to say the Grim Tarot of Billy and Mandy. I have to know if anyone else loved this cartoon growing up, the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I loved this show so much. And so when this was on Kickstarter a while ago. I want to say, I don't remember when, but it is a majors only deck, so that's really kind of the reason I don't use it a ton. But I had to. Any kind of thing, like, I am such a fandom deck kind of person. I don't love the backs. It's just kind of what's on the back of the box with the title. But the choices for this are so good. Like, it's just so spot on to the show. Grim as death. I mean, perfect. What was I saying? Oh, I love a fandom deck. So anytime there's a deck about a cartoon I really like, I'm gonna get it. You know what I mean? And so even though I don't use this a ton, it's one that I love having. It truly feels like it just like haunts my shelf in the best kind of way, because of course it is a spooky vibe of a show, and therefore deck. And I love it so much. It's one of those things where it's like, oh my god, it's so good. Where when I saw it on Kickstarter, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought about that show in so long, but I loved it. Like, I have to get this. And every once in a while, I will use a majors only deck, but it's one that even just to like sit here and go through it, I just really, really like it. So that is my ghost deck, the Grim Tarot of Billy and Mandy. Number 3 is Full Moon Madness. Which deck drives you wild with excitement when reading under the moonlight? Or share the deck that makes you feel powerful and connected under the full moon's glow. And I knew right away what this was going to be for me, because I've used it the past 2 full moons to do a full moon reading, which I don't always do, but just having this deck really inspired me to do it. And it is the Witch's Moon Magic Oracle. This is from the same series of decks as that Witch's Familiars I love. I have all the ones that are out. Currently, there's a new one coming out in November. I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm such a huge fan. Something about, like, whenever they all have the same backs, different colors, and maybe like I think they all have a pentacle. Yeah. But maybe I think the pentacle looks a bit different on each too. But whenever I see or pull out these decks, I don't really know. It just causes me such internal joy. And I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. But I love them so much. And so when I got this one, I was like, well, I gotta try doing a moon reading with it. And it works so well. And it just, you know what it is? I think it's because, like, even though they're cheesy. And I'm gonna say that because I love it so much. Like, I don't mean it in any sort of negative way. But they are cheesy. But I think something about that, it's like, it does it in this perfect level where it brings this feeling of magic. Like, it feels like as if you could, like, walk into, I don't know, like a magical store, like almost like if you were in like Harry Potter and you could walk into one of the magic stores. That's what these decks always feel like to me. So it's like they reach this level where it's like they're so cheesy, it makes the world really feel real and believable and like immersive somehow. I don't know what it is, but using this under a full moon, it's so magical. It really does make it feel so magical, which is so funny because I have quite a few, I'm going to use this term loosely, quote unquote, like, more serious decks that are aimed at moon magic. And again, I'm using that term kind of loosely just to, in meaning it in the way of like vibe, not intent by the creators. But I've got quite a few of those decks, and like for some reason it just doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really land for me. Where as soon as I used this one, I'm like, I never want to not do a moon reading again, because this was magical. Like, it's so good. I love it so much. So that is definitely my Full Moon Madness deck. The Witches Moon Magic Oracle. Next up we have the Skeleton Key. Which deck unlocked a deeper understanding of tarot for you? This is the deck that helped you unlock new layers of tarot wisdom and insight. And for me, that's got to be the Playful Tarot. I think this was, at least from my memory, I should say, getting this deck really felt like the first instance for me of like, oh, this deck definitely, you know, it's giving RWS for certain, but does so in a really creative, out-of-the-box way. Like, it's not, the images aren't strictly RWS at all, I feel. You know, it's like it's aiming at the same meaning, but in this whole different way. And so, even now, like, using this deck just really feels like it unlocks different ideas and layers of tarot, because just the way the images are done in this fun and imaginative way pushes my brain to view it in a very imaginative way. And so a lot of the cards in here inspire, I feel, looking at certain tarot meanings from a different angle. Like, it really takes that RWS meaning and it almost feels like it says, okay, like, yeah, we can get to that meaning, but what about, like, through this route? What about this over here? And I just really love that about this deck. And again, from my memory, it feels like this was the first one I was really able to read with and be like, oh, I can kind of think what I want about this. Like, I don't have to go with the rote meanings. I can really, you know what it is? This was the first one, again, from that I can remember, that it's like I really paid more attention to what was going on in the image versus just what I knew from tarot meanings. And so this one really, really is my Skeleton Key deck for certain. And that is the Playful Tarot, which I love so much. Okay, number 5 is the Trickster. Which deck has surprised you the most with its tricky or unexpected readings? It's that deck that always gives you unpredictable or cheeky readings full of tricks and twists. And that has got to be the Sacred Rose Tarot. This is one, if you have heard me talk about this before, you'll know that, like, from the get-go, from getting this, it just was like one of those weird tarot experiences where it's like, I didn't even like the look of it. I was in some sort of metaphysical shop and saw it, and I had just never seen it before. I was like, oh, well, what is that? And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure from this that's not me, that's not my thing. But it was like this weird pull of like, I need to get it. I need to know what's going on here. And from the first reading, it was giving these like creepily like accurate readings in a way though where it's like, I don't know, it was almost off-putting at the time. And this deck has stayed off-putting. Honestly, I think it still feels that way to me. It has that tinge of like, I don't know about you. But every time it just pulls something out that I'm like, what? And that has only been exacerbated by getting the, do I have it here? Yes. The full-size book. Because sometimes I'm reading that guidebook when I pull a card and it pulls out something that I'm like, I would have never in a million years made that weirdly specific connection. Nor do I like always connect, like it's specific to the point where I'm like, I can't even relate to that. But then somehow, some way, throughout the day, I'm like, oh no, how did I just connect to that, you know? it really is a tricky deck in that way. It's got tricky trickster energy. I don't know, it's a weird one. It really is. But something about it, it's one of those where it's like it's spooky accurate for me. So she's always gonna stay. But that has to be my trickster deck, and that is the Sacred Rose Tarot. Number 6, we have the Black Cat's Curiosity. What's the spookiest or strangest tarot reading you've ever done with a deck? Share a reading that gave you chills or just left you feeling a little spooked. Now, for me, that was one of the times using the Wildwood Tarot, pulling a specific card that I will tell you after explaining. So, maybe like 2 years ago now, maybe three, wow, I don't know. There was a period of time where it's like I just kept seeing a lot of deer. But I don't usually think anything of it. I'm not really a huge like animal message person because we just do have a lot of wildlife right outside our house. And so most of the time it's like it's just not that deep, you know what I mean? Like we just see a lot of animals a lot. And so I wasn't really thinking anything of it until it's like I had these 2 encounters. One when I was on a hike where a female deer just was like really close to me and just let me kind of watch her eat the greenery she was eating, and we sat for quite a while like that. And then right after that, when I was getting home from work one day, I came truly like within 6 feet of another deer in our yard. Like it didn't run away, and usually they run away when they hear me coming. It stayed where it was and let me I wasn't trying to approach it. Accidentally, I just got like 6 to 10 feet away, and we just looked at each other, and it just calmly walked away. So I'm like, well, that was weird behavior for a deer, at least in my area. But I didn't think too much of it. But then that night, I was doing a reading. I went to pull a card from the Wildwood, and this is the card that came up. The Ancestor card, which portrays, I want to say Ellen of the Ways, but just this card coming up. It was one of those things where it's like I flipped the card over and it was like full body chills of like, ooh, okay, something feels like it's going on here. And so it really just launched me into this whole practice around looking into the figure of Ellen of the Ways, all of the goddesses that are kind of connected to her, and that's something that really has, you know, to varying degrees continued since then. And it's just like, it's one of those readings that I will never forget because it was like, oh my gosh, like it was one of those things where it's like you just got chills and you're like, oh, okay, no, then maybe that does like mean something. I don't know. But yeah, that's my Black Cat Curiosity, was this reading with the Wildwood Tarot. Alright, last but not least, number 7 is the Pumpkin Patch Pick. Which tarot deck would you choose to accompany you on a spooky Halloween night of adventure? So your trusty deck for an eerie or mystical Halloween exploration. This was an easy one, because I think I've landed on, I've got a few, a few Halloween decks. But I think this year really solidified this one as my favorite, and I've had it for like 5 years now, but it's just like, I don't know. I love Halloween, so I'm like, it's hard to choose, but something about this one. And it's the Nightmare Before Christmas Tarot. I think it's also that I just like so intensely love this movie, and before wanting this deck, I should say, I had actually never seen the movie, so I didn't see it until around like 5 years ago. I don't know why, I just hadn't, but I was like, oh, that deck I remember seeing the deck and like thinking, that's so fun, but I need to watch the movie. So I did. I loved it so much, and so then I got this deck, and it's been a thing now. Every Halloween season, the first movie I watch is Nightmare Before Christmas, and that's my cue to break out this deck. And it's so fun. It's just something about this again. It just makes my heart so happy to have this deck out again. and it's always the one I want to use. Again, I've got some other Halloween tarots. Really, like, 2 other very specific Halloween tarots. But, I don't know, it's something about this one just really is the one I get excited about. So if I were to choose one Halloween exploration deck, it's going to be this one. Something, oh my gosh, the opening scene of this movie where it plays that, I don't know, I don't know what the song would be called, but it's the opening scene song. Hearing the first, like, 10 seconds of that, the way it just, oh my gosh, makes my soul come to life. Like, truly. I love it so much. Oh my god, so good. So good. So, that is my pumpkin patch pick. And that is the Nightmare Before Christmas tarot, which I have the cutest Moonlit Fae bag for. I love that so much. And that, my friends, was the last question of this tag. This was so much fun. So, thank you to Tapestry of the Unseen for creating this. I had so much fun thinking about this, so much fun doing this just now. I'd love to know any of your others. Wait, I didn't say that right. Anyone else's responses to these, I'd love to know. What's your favorite Halloween season deck, or any of the other questions? I can't wait to watch more of these tags, truly. So again, I'll have the original linked below. But other than that, I hope you're having a great day so far. I'll see you again very soon.